Good afternoon, everyone. Today's attendance, basically, it's a reflection of the overwhelming research interest in the second district. This is despite of the demands of our duties and responsibilities. So I am convinced that your presence will contribute to the value of today's discussion. So by the way, I'm Mr. Cristie Sumbilla, teacher 3 from New Lucena National Comprehensive High School, and I will be talking about work plan and timeline, cost estimates, and the plan for dissemination and advocacy. Before anything else, let us have first a quick review of the sections and subsections of the action research. So these were initially presented by Dr. Jovi. So the remaining sections are action research work plan and timeline, cost estimates, and plan for dissemination and advocacy. So let's start with action work plan and timelines. So this part contains the research timelines. These are activities to be conducted. Basically, it starts with when will the project begin and how long will it take for it to be completed, and the duration for each step in the research process. Take note that timelines should be realistic and show concretely how the research will unfold over the allowed period of time. Also, there should be clustering of activities from planning to implementation and to dissemination. Planning covers your preparation to finalization of your research proposal, while implementation starts from getting permissions to finalization of the results. And dissemination, which is a very important part of work plan and timeline, would include your preparation of your final write-up to presentation and submission. I have here a sample work plan taken from one of our proposals. In constructing table in your manuscript, take note of the APA formatting style. The APA, or the American Psychological Association, it's a writing convention and the most commonly used format for writing manuscripts in education and social sciences. So, in presenting tables using APA formatting style, vertical lines are not permitted. Only horizontal lines are allowed to use, and this is to improve the readability of the table. A table with 2 or fewer columns and rows should be presented in the text format instead of a table. And if possible, this is very important, please do not let your table span more than 1 page. But by the way, let me clarify that the one I am presenting right now is a work plan or timeline for action research. In the event that you will be doing a basic research, instead of work plan and timeline, you're asked to provide a Gantt chart. I guess we will be sharing templates with you to serve as a sample. Maybe we can have it posted in the comment section where you can download the files. The next part is about cost estimates. On my end, this section is very crucial. Why? Because Basic Education Research Fund is a grant we will be receiving to support the conduct of our action or basic research. Thus, a need for us to liquidate the said grant at the end of the conduct of the study. Since this is a government fund, this is subject to commission and audit rules and regulations as allowable by the DO 16 series of 2017 about research management guidelines. Grant can be a maximum of 30,000 for action and can be 150K for division and region-wide research. The cost estimates include detailed research costs broken down per task, activity, or deliverable. Here, the items are broken down. Its unit cost, as well as the total. Allow me to emphasize that unit cost should be the actual cost, not the estimated one. Why? Because the regional screening committee is very particular when it comes to it, and you can be disqualified if there's misrepresentations of the cost. Since the implementation of the Basic Education Research Fund, the proposal shall be guided by the existing auditing and accounting rules and regulations. There are allowed and not allowed expenditures. So for grantees, these are eligible or allowed expenditures, but of course, are not limited only to the following. First, the fund is allowed to be used in the purchase of supplies and materials. Just remember that official receipts, or OR, are required for liquidation purposes. Then, domestic travel expenses. These are transportation and travel expenses for SDOs, technical assistance, and attending BERF-related meetings. So since we can't get an official receipts for our travel expenses, there's a need for us to secure a certification of expenses not requiring receipts. So this is in pursuant to the COA Circular Number 2007 Series of 1, and you may inquire from your respective accounting offices for the certification. Then, for communication expenses. Communication expenses can also be charged from the grant, but then again, you need to ask for the official receipt for liquidation purposes. So normally, we are buying load cards from the load stations for us to get unofficial receipts. And lastly, food and other incurred expenses during the conduct of the survey or during focus group discussion, and other expenses related to research dissemination. But take note, there's a maximum budget allocation per person as per announced last time. If there are allowed, there are also ineligible expenditures. Specifically, the research fund shall not be used for the following expense items. First, equipment or buying an equipment. So the fund or the Basic Education Research Fund is not allowed to be used in purchasing equipments like printers, laptops, etc. Also, the BERF fund or the BERF is not allowed to buy, or it is not allowed for us to buy softwares like SPSS or Statistical Package for Social Sciences or MS software. So basically we cannot use this fund in order for us to buy softwares. Also, we are not allowed to use BERF for salary, overtime pay, honorarium for resource persons, or statisticians, for example, in other provider of services. We cannot use BERF as well in our utilities and office rental, like water and electricity bills of the school. So that is also ineligible. And lastly, all overseas travel and all items not included in the approved research proposals are also ineligible. So just like in action work plan and timeline, vertical lines are not permitted as per APA formatting style. The only horizontal lines may be used to improve readability. Additionally, do not let your table span for more than a page if possible. And for the last topic, the plans for dissemination and utilization. So research dissemination is an important component of research process. Dissemination involves communicating results to our target audience that will facilitate research uptake decision making. So we can do this through scholarly presentations, or actual application, or we can have it also presented or disseminated in school announcements or publications, where researchers can share their research findings and gather new inputs and discuss policy options based on the research results. So as mentioned, researchers may also use school announcement and publications for wider dissemination and potential archival of our completed research. We should also identify venues or platforms where we can disseminate the results of our research through teacher conferences. It can be a lab session or during our inset or in-service training. It can also be done during SGC meetings where research results and proposed actions can be presented during school planning and monitoring activities, or it can also be presented during our enhanced SIP, AIP, where possible incorporations and research initiatives in the SIP, AIP. And lastly, we should identify our target audience, like will it be learners, will it be teachers, or our external stakeholders. I have here a sample plan for dissemination and advocacy. Since this is generic, you can make use of this as a guide. So allow me to read. The findings of this study will prove useful to school administrators and classroom teachers as basis for formulating policies and drafting interventions to address poor academic performance among their students. The findings of this study will be presented or disseminated to all teachers and all school heads and teachers from adjacent secondary schools in Iloilo, Iloilo during lab sessions and in-service trainings and other educators and researchers conferences during annual research forum of the Department of Education, Division of Iloilo. So the researchers likewise intend to have the findings of this study published in reputable journals, if possible, for a much wider dissemination. So that ends my presentation. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned something from my part, and I do hope as well that I gave justice to my topic. Have a great day, everyone, and keep safe.